Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rowan Pett, Executive Director here at the Australian Chamber of Commerce in Korea. Today it is my pleasure to be hosting AustCham's latest webinar, New Ways of Working Post-COVID-19, with our special guest, Chris Kim, Head of Workplace Strategy at CBRE Korea. 2020 has been a challenging year for many businesses, with many workplaces pivoting to working more remotely and also hosting many virtual meetings. Today's presentation will see Chris's insights and knowledge into the market, and he'll be touching on three distinct areas. The first is changing nature of work. Second, actively based working and flexible ways of working. And third, how the future will be informed by what is happening today by looking at what has changed, the ways we'll be doing things differently, and why we'll still come to offices. I look forward to talking to you a little bit more through the Q&A. Now I'd like to welcome Chris. Thank you very much.
Well, it's a real pleasure to connect with every single one of you. For those of you just joining us, welcome. My name is Chris Kim from CBRE Korea Workplace Strategy. And in my current role, I'm responsible for helping companies develop work environment that can meet their very unique business objectives and also address employee requirements. I am passionately and personally driven to support the way people work and also in transforming a workplace that can really help employees be proud of and one that the employees could really embrace. In today's webinar, I will be sharing my thoughts to the topic on new ways of working, and we'll touch upon the changing nature of work, flexible workplace, and how work and workplace may possibly change in the future in Korea. How is work and workplace looking in Korea? As you may all be already aware, people in Korea currently work longer hours than any other developed countries. We are among the hardest and longest working population, but the question remains on whether we're the most productive, whether we're truly engaged and excited about coming to work each day. According to some research, this is not the case in corporate Korea. Only 7% of workers in Korea are highly excited about coming to work. So this means that about 93% are hardworking, but they're not really happy about it. Engaged and happy employees are often the most productive employees, and they're also very involved in and enthusiastic about their work and workplace. But there has been minimal change to our engagement level over the past 15 years. Additionally, the millennial population, which is a core working group, has emerged in Korea's working population. They comprise about roughly 50% of our nation's entire workforce as of this year. And this is the group that has shown the lowest engagement level in Korea. And this generation is a generation that grew up hearing about companies like Google, Facebook, and WeWork that offer trendy and advanced workplace and work style. And what they value tend to be different to those of baby boomers, Generation X, as they crave attention and as they value work and life balance. They're also very familiar with technology. Now, majority of corporate workers in Korea today still work in a very traditional and hierarchical office setting, as you could see in the image on the center and also to the right. So for these reasons, there's a perceived need in Korea to create a workplace and culture that can really get the employees excited about work and help the diverse needs of these different generations. So workplace reform and new ways of working was already in demand even before the COVID-19 pandemic. As technology evolved, we have all been empowered to work anytime, anywhere, and with anyone. So the employment forms and working styles have all been diversifying, and low employee engagement in today's workplace and the different generational values and needs around work have all triggered this demand. This is something that we should all be thinking about. As previously mentioned, workplace reform and new ways of working was in demand even before COVID-19. But the introduction of the government-led 52-hour work week policy really pushed this demand. This policy was introduced about 2 years ago as an effort by the government to guarantee work-life balance and to help make employees' quality of life better. What this also meant for the companies was a need to be more considerate and provide a work environment that can help employees be more productive, effective, and efficient during the limited work hours. COVID-19, as we all know, it really fast-tracked and accelerated this demand for workplace reform and new ways of working. This transformation appears to be, I'd say, quite late in the game, even when you consider how the other developed countries have transformed their workplaces. But this is particularly true when you look at how much phone, airplane, and automobile have transformed in the last 100 years. So these phones, cars, and airplanes are some of the core systems that have contributed to global modernization. And as technology evolved, these core systems have transformed so much to the point where it's almost impossible to recognize their original form. Workplace in the Korea market, on the other hand, has lagged far behind, with the exception of the multinational companies operating here, such as Australian companies, and to those few local IT companies. But good news is that we're starting to see more and more local mid to large-sized companies looking to adapt a more open and flexible workplace, including activity-based working environment, which we will be covering in the next few slides. So there are 4 key workplace types that can be considered in an office setting. First, there is a traditional type. Everyone gets a fixed desk, and besides the desk, formal meeting room and casual cafe or even a canteen setting is provided. A traditional workplace doesn't provide the flexibility for employees, and choices of where and when to work is limited. There's also a collaborative work setting, which is a relatively luxurious way of creating an office space. Lots of collaboration spaces and amenities are provided for the employees, and this workplace usually require about 30% more than traditional concept in terms of overall office space. Then there's the desk sharing workplace type, which you often hear about in a smart office. In a desk sharing workplace, about 70 to 80 desks are provided for 100 employees as free address or hot desking. And like traditional type, space choices are quite limited. And the main motivation behind this desk sharing workplace is the cost efficiency. And for this reason, the benefits to what matters most for companies, such as employees, is relatively low. Now, when you take the benefit of efficiency from desk sharing approach and the diverse space choice offerings from the collaborative workplace, you get activity-based working. Diverse work settings are offered, such as phone booths, cafe area, rest area, and these are offered to the employees so that they could choose where to work based on their work needs on a given day. So the concept of activity-based working, or ABW, has been around for more than 10 years, originating in Amsterdam. Ever since it was introduced, we as people embrace it very much. In an ABW work environment, you're able to choose where you work and when you work based on your work activities on a given day. So it's really about providing employees with a variety of space offerings to increase their ability to collaborate, to connect, and concentrate. So it's a research-based workplace that empowers people to choose their own place and work style to produce the desired results. In an ABW setting, the types and amount of spaces provided is usually a direct reflection of how we work. And it's usually very successful only when the objectives of this kind of a workplace concept is clearly defined. So the employee work pattern and activities are different on a day-to-day basis. I mean, even when we look at our work activities on a given day in an office setting, we don't always sit at our own desk. We sometimes go to meeting rooms or lounge areas to collaborate. Sometimes we engage in individual work to focus and concentrate. And other times we take break away from work. And sometimes we talk on the phone. When ABW is planned and developed in the right manner, it could potentially bring positive impact to both company and the people, as you could see in this case study. Now, this is the case of a multinational pharma company. This company moved from a traditional workplace to ABW about 3 years ago. After adapting ABW, the overall employee satisfaction increased by about 50%, as you can see here. And employees' sense of pride and productivity also increased tremendously. Now, when you're in a position of leadership or management, this is a huge challenge of workplace transformation. But what we're all really looking for is engagement, to be able to balance work and life, and to be really excited and engaged to go to work. With the right approach and with the right team, we feel that this is something that could be potentially achieved. So in the next few slides, I will be taking a look at how work and workplace will potentially change in the future here in Korea, given the current COVID-19 pandemic. So the current COVID-19 pandemic continues to bring many changes to the lives of everyday worker like ourselves. It has really caused us to stop and think. It has forced us to adapt. It has caused us to explore new technology. And it has really changed how we manage our team members. We also became very mindful of health and safety of others. With the ongoing pandemic, we're now entering part 2 of the new ways of working experiment, as many multinational companies and large local companies continue to offer employees a hybrid, remote, and office work environment. As many office workers were exposed to work from home for the very first time, many became increasingly convinced that as long as there is right IT support in place, and as long as there is a well-defined individual KPI, remote working will be something that is doable. We at CBRE, in an effort to hear from employees around how this new way of working is affecting them, we recently conducted an employee sentiment survey to some of our key clients. And these are the findings. Participants shared many benefits and challenges to work from home, and among the most common benefits was saving commute time. When you work in Seoul but live in Gyeonggi province, it takes about 3 hours in commute. And when you live in Seoul, it takes about 2 hours. Now, this 2 to 3 hours extra time is time that could be saved and spent somewhere more productive and meaningful. Other notable feedbacks from the survey included flexible work hours and also less distractions from colleagues or team leaders. There were also challenges to remote working, as you could see here. And among the most common response we received was lack of social connection and a sense of belonging. Respondents noted that they would still want to go to the office as there is community and corporate culture, such as friends, mentors, company events, and happy hours that really gives them the peace of mind and a sense of belonging. Other feedbacks included ambiguity of work and life balance and lack of quality work setting to support work. The figure in the right seemed to support this, as many employees in the survey responded that they were working longer days at home, on average 1.2 hours per day. Also, it's really important to note that given the high real estate price in Korea, and especially Seoul, and a relatively small sized home for the price, majority of the employees don't really have the luxury to enjoy a proper and spacious work setting to support their different work needs. So for these reasons, we do not anticipate work from home to permanently replace office working, but rather we believe that work from home will continue to be an optional way of working for employees to consider. So, I mean, the trends that were defining the future of work and workplace have been fast-tracked, as I've mentioned before, and companies have had to adjust during the COVID-19 pandemic. We feel that the need for teams to spend time together will always be a critical factor of work. For some teams, their dependency on the office will be reduced, and we believe that this will cause us to be more deliberate about why and when we come into the office. Regardless, I think the companies will still need to make their office a preferred destination for the employees. And we believe that the emphasis on employee experience will be amplified. Now, technology has proven to be a useful tool, as evident from remote working, and it will likely complement and not replace the need for a physical workspace. The outcome we feel will be an office space made up of different composition of space that is able to provide higher quality and better equipped spaces to support employee needs. And in short, we believe that the employees will feel more empowered and companies will feel more comfortable with work not being bound by the physical barriers of one workplace. So that was the end of my presentation, and I'd like to thank the team again for organizing this event, and thank you everyone for listening in.
Thank you, Chris. Now just to move on to the Q&A aspect of today's webinar, I'm looking here, we've got a couple of questions, and we might start off with the first one here. Just looking for some tips on managing team members in a desk sharing or free address environment, which is with offices, obviously they don't have any fixed seats or desks for its members.
Well, thank you for the question. Well, I think what has worked well for us in particular is to set up a team charter when you're in a desk sharing or free address environment. But this has to be in line with the corporate culture and also the team's requirements and also the workflow. Good tip that we could suggest would be to ask the team members to work in a certain desk setting, such as dual monitor zone or collaboration area 1 or 2 times a week so that the team members could sit together. Other helpful tips could be to maybe encourage team members to regularly update their Outlook so that the colleagues are aware of their schedule. And I think what has worked well for us, lastly, was to utilize the in-house company chatting tools. So a lot of the chatting tools, such as Skype, has a status box. So we have been encouraging team members to update the status box with the location that they're in on a day-to-day basis. We hope this is helpful for the audience.
Thanks for that, Chris. Question 2 here is thoughts on whether working from home will permanently replace office work in the future, especially in regards to Korea. And I know you touched this on a little bit, but looking forward, what are your predictions?
I've mentioned this in my presentation. So I think due to some of the physical barriers, I mean, a lot of us don't really have that luxury of having a spacious homework setting to support our different needs. But I think a lot of it has to do with corporate culture as well. I recently read in an article that about 30% of all jobs can be transform into 100% remote working. But when you allow employees to work from home permanently, they're most likely going to be missing out on some of the soft factors, such as community, service, and amenities. But at the same time, from management perspective, when the employees work from home permanently, then the management will be viewing these employees not as their permanent employee, but more as a freelancer, for example. Now, if you're someone who is very capable and you're a high performer, then this might be a good opportunity to make a lot of money, for example, by wearing several different hats. But for a majority of the employees, when you work strictly at home, then their KPI will be strictly based on their performance and numbers. So there will be a lot of these, safety features such as job security that could be jeopardized if we do work 100% at home. So for that reason, we don't really see work from home to be replacing working in the office permanently anytime soon.
Thank you for that. We have another question here. In your experience, have you seen more traditional senior members, or is it more the micromanagers who are handling or encouraging remote working?
Well, I think a lot of the millennial population in Korea workforce, they're actually comprising a large portion of the Korea's workforce. And these are decision makers in a lot of the corporate world. So we have been receiving a lot of inquiries from senior level managers as well as mid-level managers, as they tend to fall under that millennial age group.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
I'm not sure if that answers the question.
Yeah, fantastic. I have a question here from Joe. What are some of the best technologies that you've seen that you use to support this new hybrid working world that we've seen?
Well, I think there's a lot of collaboration tools that we could utilize, especially in this untech era. An example would be Mural, which is a virtual whiteboard that we use for our workshops with clients, for example. You're basically able to, draw virtually through this Mural platform. Another interesting technology tool that we've been utilizing for these type of meetings with clients has been Mentimeter. So Mentimeter is a virtual questionnaire in where you're able to engage the audience on a go live basis. So there's a question that you could actually ask the audience during a virtual session like this, and you're able to see the results right away through Mentimeter. So it is able to enhance engagement level in this on-tech era.
Thank you. I've got a question here from Felice Chung. How do you see office designs changing due to COVID-19, which is quite unique and specific for Korea?
Well, so we really think that there will be an increase in amenities to support the different needs of employees in Korea. Previously, hot desking or free address was very popular among companies. But with COVID-19, we have become more mindful about safety and health of the employees. So the companies are now trying to reassess the overall density of their workplace. This means that it will require a larger space because of social distancing, but at the same time, not all companies have the luxury of having a large office and pay higher occupancy cost. And that's where the research and surveys really come in. You really want to study the current state of workplace and also assess the work patterns of the employees, because all companies are different. I mean, their systems different, their corporate culture is different. So it's very important to really understand what the employees want and what they really need.
Yep, thank you. Another question here is, how do you think leadership or management needs to change to support the new way of working? Is there enough trust between employees and managers?
I think that's a really good question. I think that's where change management could really kick in. I think these type of workplace transformation is a huge change for corporates. But change is often very difficult, and this is really due to the imbalance of information that the management has, and also what the majority of the employees have. So the majority of the employees don't have the information that the management knows, and vice versa. So change management, I think it would be really important to engage employees and also to reduce the gap between what the management and employees know. So I think it's very important to regularly communicate the updates in regards to office transformation, for example. It should be a two-way communication through FAQs, for example. So we need to really address and understand what the employees are thinking about these type of projects and address it to the larger audience. Another suggestion that I would have for the audience here is to identify change supporters from each of the business units. Now, these change champions or supporters are typically people who are well respected and well regarded within their respective organization, regardless of seniority or tenure or age. And we usually, encourage project teams to hold workshops to keep them updated about the changes that are coming up, so that they could spread the word and also observe some of the concerns that their colleagues may have in regards to office transformation.
Thank you. A question here around AEBW environment, which you spoke about a little bit earlier. How do you suggest that we prevent employees who are humans of habit from just nesting in one particular area in the office and encourage them to utilize the I guess the benefits of an AEBW working environment?
I'm not sure if you have the right question for that, but the concept of ABW is that it's a fact-based, research-based workplace. So, I mean, we do get a lot of inquiries from clients on new ways of working and new office transformation. And the first question that I ask them is whether they had a chance to talk to their employees in the form of surveys, meetings, or comms to really understand what they need. A lot of times, these companies just benchmark advanced workplace holders such as Google and Facebook and feel that that's what the employees will want. But if you don't really do the research and observe the activities on a day-to-day basis, then it will be very difficult to provide a work environment that could attune to what the employees would need. I mean, if the employees don't play games, for example, there's no point of having a games lounge in the workplace. It will be a loss of money and time and effort without getting the result that you would seek.
Okay, thank you. A question here about face-to-face relationships. So the question is, for sales in particular, it helps to meet face-to-face to build relationships, which we know is very important in Korea. Has CBRE been affected by this in the fact that you're not able to meet people always face-to-face? And do you have any good suggestions around the new flexi working environment, which is not always with the possibility of meeting the person face-to-face?
Yeah, so I think in this difficult times, this unpacked business environment has been a challenge for us as well. But we've learned that even when we're using these type of virtual tools to interact with clients or colleagues, it's really helpful if you're able to define the objective of the meeting and provide the agenda for the meeting in a very crystal clear manner. At the same time, when you're holding the meetings, and if you're in a small size meeting room, it's always good to do a roll call of the attendees, for example, and also to check in on participants who have been silent for a while because they may be facing a technical issue, for example. So I think we're really learning, from this forced remote work era, and I think technology is a big part of how we're able to work flexibly and remotely.
Fantastic. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up there. I would like to thank Chris Kim for your insight into the new ways of working post COVID-19. Thank you to CBRE for supporting this webinar, and thanks for everyone for tuning in today. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to everyone joining us in the near future. For AustCham updates, please be sure to look on our website, Facebook, LinkedIn, and other SNS formats. And until then, I look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you very much.